Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Greetings, race fans, and welcome to Apex Racing TV's presentation of the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup Series. We are here today for week one, coming to you from Hockenheim in Germany. My name is James Gregory. I'll be your host today. Beside me in the booth is Chad Dick in the virtual booth. Anyway, I understand he's having some connectivity issues, so hopefully he'll be able to hang with us throughout the next 90 minutes of our broadcast here today. And in the production booth, the always professional and prepared Simuli Kumo. Chad, I know that you have a lot of experience spent wheeling this Porsche Cup car around Hockenheim. Looks like relatively mild weather today, 21 degrees Celsius, air temp anyway. What do you think we should be expecting to see out of these drivers battling in these Cup cars this afternoon?
Absolutely one of my favorite track and car combinations. I think this is going to be an exciting race, particularly with this level of talent that we've got. I mean, we've got iRating drivers from 1.2 all the way up to 9,000. So talk about mixing it up. I realize we're doing heats today, but eventually we'll mix those fields. And I would expect a lot of battling going into the hairpin. It'll be interesting to see how people do through the twisty parts. There's oftentimes a lot of incidents there, so we'll be on the lookout for people maybe pushing too hard through, the mobile sections. So I think it's going to be some good, hard, close racing. I feel like this track and cars, they were kind of built for one another, so can't think of a better setup.
Oh, absolutely, and you can certainly imagine these Porsche race engineers putting in time testing these Cup cars at Hockenheim. It's almost a home track for Porsche, so looking over the track layout here as we're watching Christensen here beginning his open qualifying session here, or actually we're well into it. Pardon me, it looks like we've got about 5 minutes left in open qual. Christensen, your current provisional pole setter, I guess, putting down a 1:25.79. Looking over the layout here, where do you think we should be expecting some contested areas where people are going to be looking to pass on this track?
Yeah, I think that the two obvious places are obviously into turn 2, coming after turn 1, depending upon if somebody makes a mistake. And then, at the end of a long straight, at the Parabolica curve, that is just so inviting. I see people go 2, 3, even 4 wide in there. I've seen some people find a fast line on the outside. So, I mean, that's the obvious place to look. That'll be very interesting. And then the other one that's oftentimes a surprise is going into the carousel towards the end. Again, you're looking for guys making a mistake coming out of that fast right-hand sweeper. Maybe they get on the grass, maybe they go too wide. So a door can open and there could be a moment of opportunity there, and I'll be interested to see if some of the quicker guys try and jump on that.
Yeah, and me as well, and definitely appreciate your insights. Folks, you should see Chad wheeling this cup car around Hockenheim. He is blisteringly fast. And here's another interesting section here as we watch Bob Humphrey coming onto the front straight. It's a difficult combination there coming onto the front straight with the exit being really critical. If you try to get impatient, try to overcook that, you can wash out and get a bad exit. And if people are struggling exiting that complex onto the front straight, Chad, do you think we're going to see some passing attempts or some side-by-side into turn one, which could be pretty thrilling, I think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on what kind of mistake somebody makes coming out of that final turn. I see a lot of people get on throttle too early and just power oversteer into the wall. That's a really hard one to save. So I think if that happens, that'll make an easy overtake into turn one. But, you know, if you find somebody kind of right on, you know, nose to tail coming around that final turn and they get a good run, I've seen people stick their nose in there, go too wide on turn one. The inside guy usually eats a lot of curb, which, you know, can be questionable. It might bounce you out, but I'm not too worried about that with this caliber of drivers. These guys know how to race close and tight and fast, and so I expect to see a lot of that today.
Yeah, absolutely. And the outside driver on that side-by-side into turn one, it's not hard to get a slowdown if you're pushed wide there on the exit. So that's something that they're going to have to be cautious of. Going back to the timing tower here, it looks like we have Parker White has almost broken into the 124s here, setting a 125.05. Just a couple clicks behind him, Pascal Costa and Maltha Rumer, your provisional 1, 2, and 3. And my goodness, look at those times. The top 10 drivers here in qualifying thus far are within 1 second. And so we're going to be looking at a highly competitive race here, especially among the front runners. And we will start, of course, with a couple of 10-minute heats that will set the grid for the feature later on. About a minute left here in qualifying. We're looking at Bielica. He is tickling the top 10. If he can just eke out another 10th here, he might be able to push his fellow countryman there. It's like another German Hammer is currently sitting in P10.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all to see Parker at the top of this list. I think we need to check his DNA for alien strains. I do remember about a year ago, he was a 3,000 iRating, and now he's like a 9,000 iRating. The guy has just been on a tear the past year and a half. I know everybody's been talking about him, so not surprised to see him at the top. But, you know, lowest rated iRating we have in the pro class here is 6,000. So between 6,000 and 9,000, you know, they've all proven themselves. And in some way you could say it's anybody's game depending upon how clean they race and what kind of incidents happen. So, and also it will depend on, you know, the outcome of the heats. So this is an interesting format, ultimately building up to a final race that I think is good preparation for the PESC series, which is how many of these drivers are using this series to get ready for the PESC in the fall. So expect that caliber of racing today.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell us a little bit about that PESC series while we have a second here.
Well, as far as I know, I haven't had the privilege of racing, and I know you think I'm fast here, but I'm not anywhere close to these guys' pace. You know, but it's a series put on by Porsche regionally. I've had some good friends recently do the PESC series in Canada. That was huge grids, like 50, 60 drivers, very intense competition. I follow the one that goes on in Europe. It's, you know, it's an elite level of racing by invitation only. You got to earn your way in there through a lot of qualifying. And you can always expect them to put on a good show. It really is. It's an excellent showcase of this car, which is really a driver's car. Not a lot of nannies, not a lot of protections to help you along. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's a really fun series.
And I hate to interrupt you, Chad, but we got the grid lining up here. We're going to run through that now. We got Parker White in P1 next to him on the grid, Maltha Romer, Matteo Kunzer and Runiger behind them in row 2, Christensen and Bielica, followed by Young and Pereira. Parker and Wickert are in row 5. Humphrey and Araya will make up P11 and P12. there in row 6. Behind them, Saul and Stevens, Roberson and Janney in P16. And that will be our starting grid as we count down here. And yeah, worthy of mentioning, we're going to see a standing start here, which is can be a handful in these cup cars on cold tires. We have no traction control, no anti-lock brakes, and over 500 horsepower in a fairly lightweight car. So it's always a challenge to do the adrenaline control necessary to get off the line cleanly and make it through turn 1. So let's see what White and Romer are going to have in store for us as we're going to go green here at Hockenheim. And White looks like he's getting away pretty clean. Romer's going to come in behind him. It's going to be White, Romer, and Kunzer 1, 2, 3 through turn 1. People taking it pretty easy here, which is probably discretion being the better part of valor with these cup cars on cold tires. And Romer now is going to go peek inside.
Yeah, you couldn't have said that any better. I mean, that's cold tires on turn 2, just a little understeer and somebody can duck in underneath. So here we go, the side-by-sides into the hairpin.
Looks like a little rubbing there. We've got Kensinger leading Rudinger and White. Rudinger and White going side by side. Looks like Rudiger's going to peel away there. Now it's White versus Christensen for P3. And Romer now watching that from behind. Not sure what happened to him on the start. Looks like he dropped back a little bit there. Yeah, he lost 3 positions from his grid position of 3rd.
Yeah, I think he was in the lead and pushed out wide, and he had 3 guys already lined up on the inside, so it was just a quick 1st to 4th.
Yeah, very easy to, a minor mistake can really cause you to wash out on these cars. Overcooking the entry can lead to significant understeer, and the only way to save those understeer moments is really reducing your speed. And I think we saw Romer suffer that as he let 4 cars through. And that's the end of lap 1. We got Kunziger from Rudiger, White, Christensen, Romer in 5th, Bielica, Pereira, Parker, Wichert, and Janney is your top 10. The field stretching out already here. Everybody going single file, and as Chad pointed out, we've got a pretty wide range of iRatings here, so it's very likely that we're going to see some folks up front pull away as the field starts to sort itself out here.
Well, I think the one to watch right now is Michael Janney in P10. In the pro class, he's a past champion. The guy has incredible speed and control of this car. I've had the fortune of being on track with him a couple times. Seeing him in 10th place doesn't look right to me, so I expect that 0 to get dropped and see him move up the grid.
Oh, for sure. And Janney, it appears, gridding in P16, he may not have set a qualifying time or just had struggles in qualifying. Started at P16, he's already up 7 and making a solid claim for a hard charger. And I think you're right, Chad. We're going to see him continuing to move up as he's now looking at Parker. Parker now with his windshield full of Janney now back up front. Here's Rudinger with White behind. White has got him down to about 0.2 of a second as they come out of turn 1. You can see Kunziger off there in the distance.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we're seeing right now, which won't factor into a 10-minute heat race, but this track is sometimes known for its draft trains. And so if you do find yourself, maybe with not enough pace to overtake, you can sort of tuck in and draft up the guy in front of you and save fuel. Obviously, that's not going to matter today, but I think that translates to patience today. So just tuck in, wait for the guy in front of you to make a bobble or a mistake, and look for the opportunities. This race will come to you if you're patient here.
Yeah, and this track layout, we're seeing him enter the kind of stadium complex here. This track layout is actually bypassing the hairpin that we were talking about earlier. I forgot that these cup cars don't run the full GP circuit.
Yeah, I've seen them run it both ways. It's a fun car either way, but yeah, it's a little quicker paced when you do that cut through in the middle. I like the sort of shorter track series that P Cup runs. They do it at Watkins Glen. They do it here. it's it's sort of fun because it sort of speeds it up a little bit, makes it feel almost like Lime Rock.
And there's Araya going wide there. Looks like he may have picked up a little damage. Gonna see a little replay of that. Yeah, I'm not sure if he had help here.
Just a little too much weight on the front left tire, and it just oversteered. Thank God there's tires on that wall, because there's concrete right before it, which would have been a couple of years ago in the actual real Porsche Cup series here. One of the drivers hit the wall on the left side and then split his car in half and sent the engine across the track.
Yeah, I think you're right, Araya. Lucky there to be able to reduce his speed before he got a significant impact. But yeah, it looked like he just overcooked that corner just a bit. And here's Belicky being challenged by Channy, it looks like. 219.
Yeah, we're starting to see on the leaderboard the classes sort themselves out. So we've got nearly all the pro at the top. We've got all the pro-am in the middle. So I think, this is a testament to the validity of iRatings and people's experience levels. And it's nice to be able to mix it up with 3 different classes here at the same time, because that presents all sorts of opportunities up and down the grid.
Parker now. Got Pierre in front of him coming onto the front straight. A great shot there of the train Chad was referencing coming down the front straightaway. We're already 6 minutes in, only 4 minutes remaining. That difficult turn 1 there. You want to get a little bit of the curve, but to get too much of it, disaster can certainly strike, run wide, get a slowdown, or turn the car there. Again, it's one of these spots where these Cup cars can be a handful. They've got the power almost of a GT3 car, but without the mechanical grip and downforce. So definitely a test of your driving to wheel one of these babies around Hockenheim.
I think that's what I'm seeing right now is the mastery these guys have of this car. They know when they can use the curb and when they can't. At this track, there's some flatter curves, like the one going into the stadium section. You can take that. It really helps the car rotate. Same thing with the exit on the final turn onto the front straight. But those red sausage curbs, they will bounce this car and can really unsettle things. So I think I'm seeing them avoid the big red sausage curbs, and anything that's blue and white or flat, they're happy to eat up.
Absolutely, and you saw a really nice shot there of a couple cars coming out of that stadium section, that last right-hander. You can slide right up to that red sausage and kind of use it to help you straighten the car out for the next straightaway. It is risky, but when you're a 9K rated driver, you're taking those small risks to get those tenths, because that's what's required to get to the front of one of these fields. Kunziger now well in the lead with about a half-second gap over Runiger, who has one and a half seconds, or another half-second gap above Christensen. Kunzer now looking like he's driving away. Looking at Parker now. Now we're back to Kunzinger.
Yeah, I think that's all still in play here with 7 minutes to go. 3 minutes to go in the race. 7 minutes complete. And back to that red curve you were talking about. I like that curve because, when you're trying to find the track edge, it helps you feel the edge coming on exit. Sometimes it's just a white line in grass, and that can spell trouble, but at least that one kind of lets you know you've reached the limit and time to open it up and straighten it out and get ready for the fast sweeper into the stadium section.
Yeah, absolutely, and it is a good tool to use, but you slide another tire width beyond it, and those tires are off the ground. You're half airborne, and I've seen a lot of big wrecks at that spot. People trying to push there too hard.
Yeah, it can throw you left, and there literally is a wall about 100 yards straight ahead of you. So if you get thrown left, there's no saving it, really.
Another beautiful shot here of this 992 Cup car bouncing over the curb. It's one of the fun things about driving this car, the low weight on the front axle. You can be a little aggressive even with some of the higher curbs, because it's, if you're on the power, the front tire just kind of skips across the curb because it's not loaded and not very heavy up there.
Yeah, Romer's proven me wrong there. He ate the curve in turn 1 there with great ease, just flew right over it. He's clearly pushing to try and make up some time here in the last minute as we got the white flag showing.
Yeah, white flag lap, and again, Kunter is well in the lead by about a half second over Rudinger, who has a half second over Christensen, and another about half second over White. Now, it doesn't look like that much when you're seeing the line there, but these evenly matched cars, evenly matched drivers, that if you can maintain that half second gap, you're not going to give anyone an opportunity to pass, and I think that's kind of what we're seeing here.
That's the biggest mistake new drivers make, is they think a half second at 150 miles an hour is the same as a half second at 50 miles an hour, and it isn't. You need to leave a lot more space when you're going slower.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if you caught any of the, oh, go ahead.
Oh no, just watching Kunzinger here taking the checker, and that is, I said Kunzinger, it's Kunter. Looks like he picked up 2 positions. In fact, 1, 2, and 3 there. Kunter, Rudinger, and Christensen all moved up 3. We saw Malte Romer have a problem there on the start. Parker White dropping back, so they both dropped out of the top 3. And there's Chad's boy Janney, who moved up from P16 to P6. It's definitely the hard charger. Ended up putting down a 125.77 during his onslaught through the field, and that was the fastest lap of that 10-minute sprint. A great drive there by Janney.
Yeah, that makes me think that was maybe strategically planned. You know, this is the first race, the first heat of the season, probably feeling out the grid to see what kind of pace people are bringing in this season. We know he's got the pace because he's won this series before, and he's always a contender in the past, so that was a smart drive.
All right, and looks like we got our second heat gridding up here. We're going to have Costa on the pole, Scully next to him. Row 2, we'll have Velgut and Koth. Behind them, Hammer and Daltiel. Row 4 will be Sedgley and Cope. Behind them, Lazarus and Sproul. Humberstone and Seifert in 11th and 12th. That will be row 6. Kev Copeland and Paul Joseph in 13 and 14. Jay Walsh and Pierre Zirnhout will be the back last row of the grid, and we are green. Let's see what Costa will do here. Similar to the last race. Oh, no, it's not. Scully gets a better launch and gets the inside line in turn 1. He will move into the lead. So we get Scola from Costa, Velgut, Kos, and Hammer. And Costa going to get cooked here on the inside again. Costa struggling here in the early going. He's already lost 1 position, maybe overdriving the car a little bit. Looks like he's washed out of a couple corners there. And now he's got Velgut wanting to reel him in. Wow, look at that side-by-side action in these Cup cars. These drivers know what they are doing. Holy cow. Side-by-side.
That corner is not one that you normally go through side-by-side, and yet they do it very cleanly and almost effortlessly there. You don't see them losing any pace. Very, very nicely done there, particularly on cold tires. I'm not sure that's a move I would try.
Yeah, obviously a great deal of skill here and a great deal of trust between these drivers to even attempt those maneuvers. And as Chad said, if you're taking it easy and being careful, you probably pass on that choice to go through there side by side. But 10-minute sprint race here, everything is on. They're leaving everything on the track here.
It almost feels like we're watching a replay of the start of the last race. Just very clean, line them up, find the pace, and look for the opportunities. So it's clear these guys have done their practice on this track, and nobody's coming in cold to the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And riding along with Costa here, our pole sitter, he has not let Scully get away. It's less than 0.2 of a gap here now. Maybe. Whoa, tries to peek inside. Scully's going to slam the door in his face and see if he can make it around the outside here. And not quite. I'm guessing Scully's going to shut the exit off, and he does. I have a feeling that these two are going to put on a good show for us here.
Well, and if not Costa, he's got 3 other countrymen right behind him, all with home field advantage, you could argue here. They're probably not going to give up that P1 too easily. So we see a sea of the German flag there at the top of the leaderboard for a reason, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And Costa, of course, keeping his eye on Scully, looking for an opening, and you got to think he's driving in his mirror as well. He's got Belgut behind him with about the same gap that Scully has on him. So he's looking ahead and behind to kind of exit they get here onto the front straight. See if anybody can make anything happen here in turn 1.
Yeah, Costa and Hammer, who are teammates, we see the matching liveries there. Our teammates working together in different classes here, so that can also be nice when you're in these kinds of trains, knowing that you've got an ally behind, maybe keeping traffic from pressing you too much and allowing him to attack up front. So he's clearly got the pace, because if you're watching him, he's closing up those gaps pretty nicely on entry. It seems like it's either the side-by-sides or the exits where he's, the door gets closed and he's not quite able to completely overtake yet, I would say.
Yeah, Scully definitely putting down the times. Got the fast lap so far at 1:26.67. Costa just a couple ticks behind him at 1:26.85. And Belgut in P3 actually has a slight fast lap advantage on Costa as he's still sniffing around back there. And that is quite a pack of cars there. They're not really spreading out quite as much as we saw in the last race. So this will come down to the end, I think. So what do you do here, Chad, strategically? Do you want to bide your time and wait to make a move on the last lap, or are you pushing for every opportunity throughout the entire 10-minute sprint?
Well, I think given that it's a sprint and given that it is really hard to overtake here, you got to take the chances when they come to you. So you can't be guaranteed that if you wait till the last lap, it's not like there's a hugely long straight, since we're using the shorter track format here to be able to catch somebody going into the tighter hairpin. And since everybody's kind of caught up in the same drafts, your deltas between different lap times aren't all that huge here. So I would say take the opportunities as they come and then play defense, because we're seeing Scully do a nice job, setting the pace, but also playing defense very effectively here.
Absolutely. Further back in the field now, we're taking a look at Cope. He's got about 4/10 ahead of him to Coase, and another 5/10 behind him. And these cars are just packed together. Looks like we may be looking at a train from flag to flag here, 5 minutes in. And gosh, the furthest back car, aside from 16, there's kind of an outlier, is only about 14 seconds back. So they are driving hard and keeping the train running here.
Well, let's give some props to this heat, because it's been clean all the way from start to finish. And again, on full tires with this close racing, this track that has no nannies to assist you. I don't want to jinx anybody here, as we start to see a little overlap there going into the final 2-turn complex. But, it's a pleasure to watch when people can run this close, this fast.
Yeah, absolutely. And here we're looking at car 2. 113 there, Julian Pierre Sternhelt. He's looking like our hard charger here today. It looks like he qualified in the back at 16th. He's already up in the top 10 at P9, having gained 7 positions. Sniffing around here for P8. He likes his chances with Dalziel there. Has got him down to about 1/10. And he's got to have Dalziel looking in his rearview mirror. Now he's peeking inside, entering into the stadium complex, and he is going to get that pass done, it appears.
Yeah, there you go, close the next door. That was textbook right there. He strikes me as somebody who maybe didn't have the qualifying time that he wanted, or maybe he just wanted to challenge here and just go sort of last and first, given that he's in the pro class. But a really good illustration of, even when you don't qualify well, just put your head down and do your best in the race, and if you've got the pace and you've got the skills, you can move up. That's certainly going to be my MO this week at Spa. I'm not able to get up to the top of the grids, but if you can race hard and clean, you can make up some ground in a single class of car field like this.
Absolutely. And Pierre Pierre Zernheld, pardon me, is now up 8 positions, and he is only about 4/10 off the fast lap currently held by Scully in P1. So he's got the pace, and obviously he's got the racecraft. He's making moves with this Cup car and chipping away. Penetrated the top 10, now sitting in P8. Looking at Sedgley now. He's got a back up to Scully. Scully now getting pressure from Costa. There's a little overlap there. Velgut right there as well. My goodness, these cars are packed together. That is your podium. And things are getting a little racy here with only 2 minutes left. See if anybody wants to make a move or if they're satisfied as they sit.
Oh, I don't think you'd be called a racer if you were satisfied where you sit. So I would expect some people to try and push down on that loud pedal here and see if they can make up 1 or 2 more spaces at the end, or at least put pressure on somebody by driving in the rearview mirrors as we're seeing here. Just looking for that opportunity to present itself.
Absolutely, another great shot by our producer Sam there. That exit curve that we were talking about earlier. See the cars that cross the curve bottoming out, shooting sparks, and there's Pierre Jean. I'm killing Julian's name. I'll just call him Julian.
We'll call him BZ. We'll call him BZ. I can do that.
Julian BZ
JBZ
has claimed another victim. He is now up 9 positions in P7. And let's see what kind of gap he's got in front of him. He's got about 0.9 ahead of him we might be seeing the white flag here. We're very close to the end of this heat, but he has put on a show, my goodness, up 9. And it looks like Scully, Costa, and Velgut and Hammer, none of those folks have moved. So your P... Oh, and as I said, that Hammer is off. Oh, my goodness. Philip, I am dreadfully sorry about that commentator's curse. I'm not sure what happened there. Let's see if we can get a replay. Hammer is the rear car here.
Oh, lockup.
Yeah, a little lockup. And again, folks, you've got to have skills to drive these Cup cars. No ABS, no traction control, and absolute monstrous amount of power. So it's kind of only a matter of time once you've done enough laps that you're going to experience a lockup. And that was very poor timing for Hammer there. It's dropped all the way to P8 after that little bobble on the brakes.
Yeah, everybody always talks about this is checkered flag. Yeah, so we're checkered flag here.
That is our checker. That's going to be Scully, Costa, Velgut, Kos, Cope, Jer, BZ. We'll go back to Julian.
JBZ
has moved all the way up to P6 from P16. That is 10 positions up. What a drive by him. Sedgley, Hammer, Dalziel, Lazarus, Sproul, Seifert, Humberstone, Walsh, Copeland, and Klist. All 16 cars finished that sprint on the lead lap. So there were a couple incidents, none of them major, and really a great show put on by these drivers in Heat 2.
Yeah, I think my mental note is our friend JBZ there, demonstrating quite proficiently both in the hairpin and in the final turn complex. He's got that sort of constant radius inside turn move down beautifully. So let's see if that's his move, and he looks to set up the inside move in the future heats, or what other kinds of things he's got up his sleeve. That was really nice to see in 2 different areas of the track.
Yeah, so those are our 2 heat races for this afternoon. And here is our next grid. We got Parker and Dalziel in P1 and 2. Nico Weichert and Corey Lazarus will be in row 2, positions 3 and 4. Aiden Young and Samuel Sproul, Joseph Saul, Thorsten Seifert, Louis Araya, Glenn Humberstone, Bob Humphrey, and Jay Walsh. That is your top 12. Chase Robertson and Kev Copeland, Tom Stevens, and Paul Klist will be your 15 and 16. And these events are coming at us fast and furiously here. And just a quick reminder, folks, this event is brought to you by Apex Racing Academy. Remember to add Apex Racing Academy to your VRS subscription. We've got live coaching, setups, and telemetry to gain the last 10th. And we are now green. Parker is going to maintain his P1. Dalziel moving over behind. Weikert tucking in for P3. Got one car there taking a very shallow entry. Not sure what happened to him. Dalziel now looking on the outside of Parker, challenging for the lead. Not quite get that done. We're still on cold tires, and looks like the bad line he took in that attempted pass opened the door to Weikert, who has now moved up into P2. Looks like there might have been an issue with Saul, who was dropping back a couple of positions on the start.
Yeah, I almost have to go back and amend what I said about being aggressive when the opportunities present themselves. But maybe the exception of lap 1, turn 1 and 2. Like, just take it easy on those two and then settle in and look for the gaps, because that's a perfect illustration of you push it too hard on full tires, he ends up, instead of gaining a position, losing one. So it's sort of a 2-for-1.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's it really is a hazard with these cars. If you push just a little too hard, you can really end up with the front end washing out and end up in a bad oversteer situation. And the only way to save that is to get on the brakes, scrub off some speed for those front tires to hook back up again. And in the meantime, especially with the heavy traffic on lap 1, there are going to be a bunch of cars going by you as you regain control of these Cup cars.
Yeah, we can see a little wobble there from Chase Robertson coming out of that turn. And just as you were saying, wiggling the car a little bit to get the feel of the tires back underneath him. I don't know if he's overheated them or just, a little too much on the throttle on exit. But a perfect example of how this car will give you immediate feedback on what you need to do to keep it on track.
Yeah, that's definitely the case, and the Cup car does have great steering feel. And here's Seifert, looks like he's making a move on Lazarus there. The Cup car has great feel. It does really want to help, but you have to tune yourself to the feedback that you're getting. In fact, pro tip, I turn up the force feedback substantially when I drive this car to make sure that I'm getting all of the messages that the car is trying to give me. Much lighter steering than the GT3s that a lot of folks drive.
That's a good tip that I've made use of many times, thanks to you, JR.
Yeah, it really does want to help you. When you first get in it, you're left with the impression that it wants to kill you, but it will give you tips if you can attune yourself to it and listen. Here we see Copeland coming out of that last double right-hander onto the front straightaway. He has moved up 3 positions now. Some of that through some misfortune. Looks like Aiden Young has parked it. So this will be our first DNF of this evening. Young looks like he qualified pretty well up in P5, but he is now in the pits looking for a Heineken, I presume.
Yeah, obviously this is the consolation heat, so not everybody here is going to advance into the final race. I think it's the top 4, if I'm not mistaken. But there's a point at which in this kind of a consolation bracket, if you're out, you can't make up the ground because you got a damaged car and you're sitting in the pits for repairs. Probably best to take spectator notes and prep for the next race.
Well, here's Copeland. Looks like he's dicing with Stevens here.
Nice holding on.
That was Walsh he was with. Looks like he got past Walsh potentially there.
This is sort of a textbook, slow in, fast out car. So that was a good illustration of, if you want to get aggressive going into a corner, you might find a little oversteer on exit, as he did, but he managed it beautifully and managed to hold on to the overtake. So you just have to know how the car is going to respond when you're going to push it, be a little more aggressive like that.
Yeah, absolutely. The Cup car definitely likes to have the front tires hooked up and pointed in the direction that you want to go before you get on the throttle. And Lazarus having a problem there. You know, I saw him coming out of the final turn there in a cloud of smoke. I was not really sure what was happening there.
Start dreaded
Maybe
power
it was
oversteer. No, looks like
potentially incident there. Did he take damage? And there's Araya. He's plummeting down
that's just overheated tires. Can't get it stay straight. You get one or more tires that get overheated like that, and it can.
Oh, there we go. Too much of that curb on turn 1. We were talking about that earlier. You want to kiss it a little bit to get that last tenth, but obviously Araya getting way too much of it. 4 wheels off the ground, and I'm not that good of a physicist, but I do know that your tires have to be on the pavement in order to get any mechanical grip, and that sent Araya off into the runoff area. Now we're up front with Parker. He's got a slight gap above Wickert here, about 3/10, with looks like there's about 8 minutes remaining, and that's our top 3 clustered together pretty well. Looks like overall gap of less than a second here. It's like Kai Dazil wants a little piece of Wickert. He's all over him here. Gonna have Wickert driving in his rear view, trying to force a mistake.
He's going to find some room here, take the outside line going into the roundabout hairpin. He's going to try a little over under maybe.
Yeah, we've seen that a couple times. Wickert saw Dazil sniffing around behind him and took a pretty aggressive inside move there to cover the inside line, forcing Dazil to try to go around the outside, and we have not seen that work yet today. So I think that defensive move there is maybe impossible to overcome. Taking the long way around just doesn't seem to be getting it done here.
Well, we saw a couple of blinks there too, and that to me is also impressive. If you can race this tight when a driver's blinking in and out occasionally in front of you, that takes some real bravery and confidence. So, you know, kudos to them all for managing through that. I hope the internet stabilizes there. These guys are from all over the globe, as we can tell from the flags on the leaderboard, and that sometimes happens. It's a little bit of lag in the server network.
You're right about that. It's slipping in and out of our dimensional plane right now, but the top 3 still within 0.8 as we reach a little over the halfway mark here of the B heat race. And that is a nice representation of countries there. We got Parker flying the Union Jack, Wickert behind him, German, and Dalziel, the Canadian Maple Leaf there. And, looks like we have an Aussie. Hopefully that's Australia. I don't want to offend anybody here. Looks like we got Sproul there running in P4. So a number of continents represented here, and one of the fantastic things about iRacing, to be sure.
That's the kind of stuff that's way above my technical pay grade. Like how they can make this game and these frame rates work across the globe on one server it's astounding. You know, 30 years ago that didn't exist, 20 years ago that didn't exist, and now we're able to race at 150 miles an hour around the globe virtually with all of our racing friends.
Yeah, at the risk of sounding like grumpy old man and revealing my age, I can remember playing Doom over a modem, so this is nothing short of miraculous, and you're 100% right about that.
Well, I'll date myself. I still get AOL CD ROMs in the mail, so yeah, I'm on some of these old mailing lists.
Wow. And can you, for the kids, can you explain what a CD-ROM is while we have a moment?
It's a Christmas ornament. You put a little bit of fishing line through it and you hang it on your Christmas tree.
Oh, and Humberstone there, looks like he had a little problem, managed to keep it off the wall, but looks like he dropped a couple positions there to go back and take a look and see what happened with him. We're on board with him now. Looks like he's entering turn 1. Oh no, that's not turn one. My apologies. That looked like turn
Turn
two. But
yeah.
like he was trying to trail brake around that corner, which is definitely an effective method to get through there quickly, and over-rotated the car. And now he appears to be a little off pace. Might be having to take care of his tires. He's got Copeland sniffing around behind him, who is actually going to make the pass. So Humberstone, that kind of went from bad to worse for him. Copeland now in P9 up 5. Another incident there. It's Weichert. That is one of our top 5 runners. Not sure if he had any help there. That's coming out of the final complex onto the front straight. See what happened to Weichert here. Maybe just getting on the
power oversteer there.
Yeah, he got bouncy on that curb there, coming onto the front straight, maybe applying the power a little too soon. Lucky not to get creamed there. Looks like he just got a little smooch on that right rear. But Weichert plummets down to P6. That's a loss of 3 positions for him, and he had been sniffing around in P4 for the majority of this race, and man, that hurts. And that's kind of driving the 992 Cup in microcosm. You can drive like a rock star all day and just apply that throttle a moment too soon and snap. And he, again, was fortunate to keep it out of the wall and to keep from getting collected by anybody coming up behind him.
Yeah, back to our conversation about the red versus blue curbs on that, final turn complex. I've seen people take it 3 different ways. Just don't touch the curbs at all, stay on the inside. There's a little gap in the middle that you can kind of get greedy and cheat your tires into that. Or you can jump all the way over them and sometimes even take the 1X. You gotta be careful because there's a slowdown right there if you go too far. But depending upon the line they take, the problem is when you get stuck in the middle, right? Maybe you try and just peak your tires in that little gap, but you stay in too long and all of a sudden you hit the red curb on exit, which it kind of looked like he did. It can unsettle the car as you're trying to get the power down for that final turn, and that's one way to induce that power oversteer. The other way I see it is when people cheat the inside corner on that final turn and maybe get too far up on it and just aren't patient enough to let the car settle before they get back on gas, because there's so much room on exit. You sort of muscle memory wants to say push, push, push all the way through that complex.
Yeah, and Dalziel getting racy here with Parker, and again we're going to see Parker try to cover the inside of the entry into this stadium complex here. And I lost my stream just for a second. It looks like Dalziel got that done. Right at the end. And there's my racing wisdom, folks. I told you that outside line was not going to work today, and Dalziel must have heard me and said, oh yeah, watch this, and got it done. Parker aggressively covering the inside. Dalziel drives around the outside, and he has moved up into P1, and you kind of saw that coming, Chad. He was sniffing around Parker's rear bumper quite aggressively, and he's already opened up almost a second gap.
Well, he redefined it for you. It was the inside line coming out turn 2 and 3, and he just used that to his advantage and was able to pull just enough ahead that he closed the door right on entry. So came in from the outside, but I think to get it done, he had to complete the overtake before entry in order to close the door.
Yeah, great move by Dalziel there. And let me take a look at the times. Yeah, Dalziel has gotten that Cup car into the 26s as fast as this 1:26.98, and that is your fastest lap of the day.
Dalziel, white flag lap here. 30 seconds left to go. They just went
30 seconds left. Oh yeah, we're just entering the stadium now. We got to be on the white flag lap, and Dalziel maybe saved it up there. Just stuck with Parker, saved up his tires, and when he needed to turn up the wick, he definitely turned it up. And wow, what a great move! Maybe we can get another look at that if we've got time before the next event here. But wow, what a drive!
Clearly making a statement. He wants to make the final heat, right? I mean, they just put the hammer down and push ahead here on the last lap. Very well done.
Yeah, absolutely. And Parker knew he was there. Gave him an invitation to take that difficult outside line, and Dalziel took it, and he is going to take the win. So we've got a little kerfuffle there developing in the back between Robertson and Walsh, maybe. I'm not sure. caught that. But yeah, here comes Dalziel to take the checker, and my goodness, what a drive for that Canuck. He'll celebrate by launching that Cup car over the curbing there in turn 1. Parker will come in second. Sproul, our Australian driver, in third. Seifert, Humphrey, Wickert, Stevens, Stahl, Copeland, and Araya is going to round out your top 10. He's just coming across the line now. We lost 2 cars this time after having all 16 cars finish in the previous event. Had a couple folks park, but that will wrap up our B final. And really everything we expected here, Chad. What do you think about the racing so far?
It's been, I mean, time flies when you're having fun, right? These have been 3 really solid races, and I think what we're starting to see is they're obviously settling into the track conditions. They're getting the feel for who's got the stuff today in the grid. So I would only, just as we saw there, a little longer race, a little tighter racing. We're gonna get the main event here next, and I fully expect more of the same, faster racing, tighter racing, and again, across all 3 races, a few incidents here or there, but that's racing. Nothing too aggressive that to me says people are,
All right, and here are all of our results from the previous heats. Again, Heat 1, Kunzer, Rugner, Christensen, White, Romer, Janney, Bilica, Pereira, Parker, and Wickert are your top 10. I think we've got our Pro-Am classes there divided out by color, so probably predictable results there, 1 through 6 taken by the Pro class. So that would put Bilica, Pereira, and Parker as your AM level podium.
Yeah, thank God for that numbering schemes, right? I'm assuming Michael Janney has 998 as defending champion, but all the rest, you can see sort of lining up exactly by their class with maybe one small exception in there. Really, really good racing.
Yeah, and it has been fantastic. Heat 2, we have got Scully, Koster, and Velgut as your podium, followed by Kos. He's all the way up in P4 with his green AM status there. Thomas Cope, Julian BZ, Sedgley, Hammer, Dalziel, and Lazarus is your top 10, followed by Sproul, Seifert, Humberstone, Walsh, Copeland, and Kleist. And Heat 2, all these heats were fantastic, actually. Really great driving and very tight field. B final, Dalziel with that tremendous pass entering the stadium section there. Parker again tried to cover the inside. It was not enough to stop Dalziel, who had lit the wick there with about 2 laps to go. So Dalziel, Parker, and Sproul will be your podium in the B finals, followed by Seifert, Humphrey, Wickert, Stevens, Saul, Copeland, Kleist, Araya, Roberson, Walsh, Humberstone, Lazarus, and Young.
Now, you know what that's going to make the A final, JR. It's going to make the challenging names are all in the A final. So we're gonna have to get creative here, because I have a feeling there's a few consonants coming our way. I don't know if you saw any of the Goodwood Festival of Speed this past weekend, but one of the things that surprised me the most was the Porsche Cup car in the top 10 of the lap time set down this weekend. It was a very colorful car, and watching its line versus some of these, older Formula One cars and some of the newer technology cars, they oftentimes refer to this as kind of an entry-level racing series for Porsche. It's the sort of the developmental series to get people ready for some of the higher classes. But I will tell you, as you said earlier, it's a powerful car with no nannies on it. It really, I think, it's anything but entry level. It's a car designed to reveal the driving and racing skill of the driver.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about that. And here we are with our grid for the feature. Matteo Kunzer will be your pole sitter in P1. Next to him, Scully in P2. The next row is Rudiger and Costa. And 5 and 6 behind them is Christensen and Velgut. White and Kos And look at Coase all the way up there in P8 from his AM position. He's putting on quite a show today. 9 and 10 are going to be Romer and Cope. Your next row will be Michael Janney with Julian BZ beside him in P12. Next row, Bilica and Sedgley, Pereira and Hammer. 17 and 18 will be Daziel and Parker. And at the back of the grid there, it looks like we have 20 cars. We'll see Sproul and Thorsten Seifert. And Kunzler is going to take the green here. And we have not seen much success by that P2 here into turn 1. Oh my goodness, cuts it close. Scully all over Kunzler there. Almost a little touch. And it may have cost him, as Scully now has Christensen and Runninger both sniffing around his rear bumper. He tries to cover the inside. And looks like Christensen wants to try him around the outside of turn. Whoa! Oh my goodness, and what a save by Christensen. Got that car fully sideways with the rear tires spinning and manages to lose maybe one position and keeps the car going. But now, I'm sorry, it looks like Romer is going to squeak him for P6 after that epic save. He probably needs to take a breath and let those rear tires cool down a little bit after that adventure.
Yeah, I mean, we got the best of the best racing here, and it reminds me of when I drive here, particularly on lap 1. I think the inside line is the favorable one. Even though it's slower, it's a little safer, and if somebody makes a mistake trying to push too hard on the outside, it gives you an opportunity. Oh, got our first little hip check into the grass and the sand there, but these guys know how to control the car, and they're back on track.
Yeah, Coase looked like he had to go avoidant there. Had a car getting loose in front of them, and thought better of trying to keep his position. We'll just kind of let the car go out in the grass and live to fight another day. I think he got out of that without a scratch, actually. So that's pretty good self-preservation there by Coase. So we're still riding along with him, entering turn 1 here. Dalziel in front of him. Now, what's he doing all the way back in P16? Interesting. So he's toward the back of the field with damage. Coase is now going to peek to the inside of Dalziel. Oh.
Yeah, it's either a little bit of help or a little bit of curve there. That's a common thing when you're going 2x2 through that corner.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I don't know much about body work, but the back end of Coase's car there looks like he might have had a little help setting up that spin. And definitely a lot of action here in the early going. Looks like we're going back to Coase.
It's either netcode, a little door bang. I don't know. That's just racing. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, you know, I think he did that to himself. Got a little bit too much of the curb in turn 1, and got a little netcode wrinkle on the back of his car there. But once you smoke these tires a few times, it does take him a little bit to get their grip back. You can't just go right back to full tilt racing. I think as Coase found out there.
Well, at this stage in today's format, this is very reminiscent of the PESC series. You know, now that we're in a feature race, 22 laps, that's the number of laps in the PESC series. These guys are going to be pushing a little bit harder than they did in the heats. And then, of course, you know, whether you only qualified through one heat or you had to go through 2 heats to get in here, we've got the cream of the crop rising to the top here. And so a little more aggressive. I wouldn't expect it to be, you know, maybe as nice as it was in the first 3 races where people were trying to qualify for this. Now they're really fighting for points of position.
Absolutely, and a beautiful move there by Scully. Looks like he was moving up, or Rudinger moving up into P2, making a nice move there into turn 2. Here we are looking at that stadium section cut through that we've been talking about a lot today. Seen quite a bit of action there.
It's almost Cope giving him a little taste of his own medicine, taking the inside line there on that constant radius hairpin, and showed JBZ, our friend, a thing or two that he's not the only one who knows how to make that pass on the inside.
Yeah, absolutely. And meanwhile, look at Kunzer up there in P1. He is created over a second gap behind with 3 laps down. And if you're Kunzer, you've got to like that feeling. The best thing you could possibly do for yourself right now is drive away. create a gap behind so that you don't have to deal with defense, you don't have to deal with anybody dive bombing you or making any ill-advised moves. Not that we've really seen much of that. These drivers are all doing outstanding, but it's always more comfortable to drive away early and stay away. And Kunzer is putting on a clinic up front so far.
Yeah, this early in the race, this is looking like he's got the pace because the Rudinger, who's right behind him, is not exactly playing defense against Scully yet. The guys behind him are all sort of nose to tail, and that's usually the thing that you see here is either the guys behind you are fighting for that second and third podium, and so it tends to slow them up and let the leader run away, or if the leader just has pure pace, he can run away, and you know, these other drivers are like, all right, well, let me take it one place at a time and sort of fight for the P3 and P2, and then if I can get to P2, then I'll see what I can do about catching him down. But it's really hard without a draft to catch somebody on this track.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chad, what do you think about tire management for this longer race? We've got 22 laps. Maybe we can get a look at the track. Oh, a little wide there. Maybe we can get a look at the track temp. But what do you think these drivers are going to have to be thinking about how they're managing their tires throughout the length of this?
I think that answer depends on whether you're talking about these guys or mere mortals. Mere mortals would definitely have to think about their tires. I think these guys have a pretty good feel for how to get the tire in its optimal range and then maintain it there. The thing that's going to knock it off is, you know, nobody can escape the tire spins or if you overheat the tires because you get into an incident. This car will punish you if you abuse the tires, and even if you're an alien, you got to give it a chance to take a breath and cool down. So I think it's more about monitoring than it is managing at this level, but you know, we'll see as the race goes on. They seem to be pushing pretty hard, and you know, again, the track's not like outrageously hot, but it's summer toasty, so let's see what happens.
Yeah, getting a little toasty. Looks like it's about coming up on 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 36 degrees C. Not horrible, but certainly not frosty cold. So the track temp is having a slight impact, I would say, on the grip. And look at these cars still battling it out into the stadium section there. This is kind of the event that we've been waiting for, the main event here. Fantastic driving.
Yeah, one of the things that I like about this track being more flat than sort of banked and cambered is, you know, it really does put a lot of pressure on the driver to manage both aero and mechanical grip around these corners. And on top of it, it's a fairly fine asphalt. So, you know, it's not like you've got a rough surface or bumps like a place like Sebring. Or, you know, banks like I've been running VIR in the past week. You know, there's some really fun turns in there. This is very sort of technical and purist as driving goes, and these guys are, again, putting on a nice show of how to do it right.
They absolutely are. And look at Rudinger. He's taken a big bite out of Kunzer's gap, which was over a second early on. I don't know if Kunzer had a bobble or if Rudinger has turned up the wick, but he is right with him now as we're going down the back straight and heading to that cut through into stadium.
Well, and here's an example of sort of managing and monitoring the tires. Because this is a longer race with 22 laps, he might want to just kind of hang back here as long as he's got a gap to Scully behind him, you know, almost a full second here. This is a good place to be because he's not going to have to work the tires as hard. He might be able to lift a little bit going into some of these corners if he can maintain this gap. But just as I say that, he's really closed up the gap, and maybe he's just on a mission to say, I'm going to take P1 and try and run away myself.
Yeah, he is all over Kunzer now. He's got it down to 0.2 and showing his nose in a few of these corners. See what kind of a run that he gets out of this final complex. I gotta say, I do like seeing cars try turn one side by side. Doesn't look like it's going to happen this time, but Kunzer definitely knows that Rudinger's sniffing around behind looking for an opportunity.
Well, and that camera work there was a great example of how to take that final turn complex. Oh, look at that. He's going to dive right on the inside. Now he's probably going to push out wide, so it'll set up the over-under, but he managed it quite well. Obviously, he's been treating those tires well and had enough grip to make that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rudinger gets it done, and you got to think that he was studying his opponent for a few laps there, trying to figure out whether that would be a good place to strike. Obviously, it was, but Kunzer is not going to take that line down. They've kind of switched positions, and now Kunzer is the one polishing the bumper of Rödinger's 992 Cup.
But Scully and Costa now are sitting there licking their chops because that's going to slow them down a little bit and bring us back to a 4, 5, 6 car train here for the fight. You know, in some respects, if something bad goes wrong here, it's anybody's game here at the front.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And looking at the timing tower, wow, this you know, you can't overstate the skill level that you're seeing here, folks. P1 through P7, their fast lap times are separated by only 0.2. This is spec racing at its finest. Put everyone in the same car. Don't give them any electronic driving aids. Put them on the difficult Hockenheim on a hot day, and let them perform and see what they can do. What a fantastic showing.
But you look at the bottom of this train, it's guys like Janny, Christensen, and Velget. I mean, they were very impressive in the first couple of heats. In fact, we're seeing a move here now by Romer. It's done. And that's give a little hip check there to Parker White, but you know, there's a little cut through there. Hopefully the slowdown's not too bad. Probably gonna have to give up a spot or two there. All depends on the speed with which you take that little access road.
Oh, and a little smooch there. Looks like Janny getting friendly with Romer. Janny and Romer have both moved up significantly. Janny is up 5 positions. Romer is up 4. So Janny's your current hard charger. And Janny is almost the fast lap holder at 126.46. So we've got a 26.24 by Christensen, which I believe is the hot lap right now. But I think we're going to see the lap times come down as the fuel loads go down, and maybe the adrenaline loads increase as the laps tick away. We're currently lap 8 out of 22.
Well, we've kind of got 2 little packs of 4 here fighting for the front. The front 4 seem like they're really pushing each other. The back 4 look like they're playing sort of more of a smart strategic race, obviously getting some pace benefit from the draft. But you know, you saw Janny and Romer move up there because of the battle with White, and I think it was Christensen through turn 2.
Yeah, I think 2:15 there, if I saw that current number right. Maybe it was Belicky. Somebody just did a full drift around that last double right-hander on the front straight, and managed to keep the car on the track. So these guys are really putting on a clinic on how to beat these cup cars to death and get the most out of them. Fantastic racing.
I think you and I will have to save this replay and take some notes after the race. That there's quite a bit we can learn from these guys.
Yeah, without a doubt. And download their ghost file and try in vain to chase them around here. But a 9K driver, my goodness, that's probably a fraction of the top 1% of iRacers worldwide. So we're seeing some tremendous talent on display here.
Yeah, you can try and chase them around. I'll try not to get lapped.
Rödinger now building his gap. He's got that up to about half a second. Kunzer no longer pressing him hard, maybe biding his time for later, but he's got Scully behind him at over a second. So Rödinger and Kunzer are kind of driving away in a pair right now with a couple other trains back behind. Here's Scully. He's got Costa sniffing around behind him. Looks like about, well, that's the overall gap. So it looks like he's about 0.3 back. Let's see if Costa wants to make a move. That stadium entry has been popular, as has turn 2 here, for people at least showing their nose and getting the driver in front thinking about what your move might be.
That timing board view that Simuli just had up there tells the story of this race. I mean, when you see orange and red gaps for the top 8 racers, normally when we're doing these kinds of broadcasts, we're looking for the orange and the red because there's like 1 or 2 of them in the field. The fact that the top 10 are all nose to tail like this really speaks to the quality and caliber of racing we're watching here.
Absolutely. Watching Costa still sniffing around behind Scully, and he has Romer behind him at a pretty tight gap. I mean, that's 1, 2. That's the top my goodness, 6 or 7 cars within a very, very short interval. And really, if you have an opportunity to watch these Cup cars, they pop up on YouTube. They're support races for various series in overseas and in the U.S. But IMSA TV, I think, is a good place to catch some of the action on YouTube for these Cup cars as support races for the IMSA races. And this is what they're like. These cars line up and battle hard for a solid hour, nose to tail. It is absolutely fantastic racing, and it's exactly how it's unfolding here. Oh, and is that Scully inside of Costa? Can he make that stick? Side by side still.
We're going to go side by side through the a little touchy. I'm here, you're there. Here we go. Uh-oh. Little lockup.
Oh, and Costa.
I mean, that's almost a carbon copy of what we saw in that last heat. You know, just fighting hard in there, and you just get a little too much percentage on the brakes, and they lock up. Or you just need one to lock up, and you know you got to let off and open up the wheel.
Yep, and Romer forcing Costa to try the outside line there, and on the outside, you know, you have to go farther, so you want to push that braking zone a little deeper, and not working out for Costa there as he lost 4 positions all the way down to P8. He's got some time though. We're only about halfway through this, so keep an eye on Costa. He's unlikely to remain in P8 with the pace and racecraft that we've shown so far.
Well, look at what's between him and P4. He's got Janney, he's got Christensen, he's got Parker White. All those guys, I'm sure, could sniff a podium.
Yeah, and here's a replay from Romer's perspective. That's Costa on the outside, maybe a little smooch there. There's the lockup. Oh, what a great camera shot. You could see that right front wheel lock and start dragging, and that was it for Costa. As Chad said, he knew that he had to get off the gas, off the brakes, and let the car collect itself before he could resume racing. And man, great tight racing we're seeing this afternoon.
And since we have an Aussie in our grid, back to your comment about where to catch the Porsche Cup in real life, I believe they also run down in Australia. I'm not sure if they all run the 992. I've seen some 991 Cup cars running down there, but there's nothing like the Cup car at Bathurst.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's that's the Super Cup, right, over in Australia?
Yeah, and I know a couple of their drivers have moved up north of the hemisphere and are running in the North American Porsche Cup series, doing quite well. So just because we don't get a lot of it due to the time zone differences on air up here in North America or in Europe, it's a heck of a series to watch if you ever catch it.
And there's Parker White, Apex Racing Academy team member there. He's maintained his P7 throughout here. Got about 9 laps left to see if he can improve on that. Following Christensen down. Got him down to a pretty tight gap. He may be taking a peek inside here in turn 2. We've seen a few moves happen down here under braking. And Christensen will hold him off for the time being, but White looking pretty racy here. And here's Hammer now. Under threat from, is that Belicky? In the 219.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
a little over, under, side by side. It's like a carbon copy of what we just saw. No lockup, keeping it tighty. Just good hard racing.
Yeah, and Hammer's going to make that one happen. I'll put him up 5 positions from his qualifying position. Put him in P11. His next target is how far ahead? Yeah, he's got a 2-second gap ahead, so top 10 may be a bit of an ask, but he certainly is doing a good job moving up in the bottom half of the grid here.
Well, we want him to tighten it up, so we have to say JBZ's name a bunch more times. So let's close that gap. Got about 9 laps to go here, and I would expect the wicks to get sort of turned up a little bit here. as we're starting to see a lot more side-by-side into those fighting corners. I think people are realizing that the clock is now ticking, and if you're going to make a move, if you're going to push the issue, now's the time to start to assert yourself.
Absolutely, and that's Romer, Janney, and Scully. Looks like Janney got through there, but they are not done again side by side into that right-hand horseshoe.
He's got the advantage coming into mobile, though. There he closes it off. Janney up to P4. Oh, he must have gotten a slowdown there. That seemed like he yielded pretty easily.
Yeah, he did. And where would that? You can get a slowdown going wide in that double right-hander, can't you?
Yeah,
So
if you
must...
go a little more than half the car, I think, over, or maybe it's all four wheels over the white line. And again, it just depends on how far you go and how fast you're going, how severe that penalty is. Oof, good save.
Yeah, so Runninger there must have got caught with a slowdown in that double right-hander leading onto the front straight, and had to eat a time penalty there, letting Kunzer back into the lead. But Rüdiger, due to the fact that the two of them have essentially driven off, there's a 2-second gap behind, was able to maintain P2, and is going to live to fight another day. He's only about 4/10 behind Kunzer here with 8 laps to go.
I think we've seen that movie before. That's how the race started. He was about a half a second back, closed it up with the draft, made a move, pulled away. So we'll see if he tries to execute the same game plan here in the final stretches. He's got to be thinking to himself, I got there once before, I can do it again.
Yeah, Scully fighting his way back from earlier incident. He's lost 5 positions from his qualifying of P2, but he is clawing his way back forward. Christensen, the next car in front of him, with plenty of time left. So it's I wouldn't be surprised to see Scully maybe threaten the top 5 here. Rüdiger now reeling in Kunzer. Got him down to 0.3. It was 0.2 there briefly, but Rüdiger might have been a little shy in that double right-hander, that got him the slowdown on the last lap.
Not shy at all in turn 1 there, though, just eating all the curb and kicking it up on 2 wheels. That is full confidence there.
Yeah, it really is, and it shows a high degree of familiarity with this car, just to be able to launch it off of that curb consistently lap after lap and know how the car is going to respond, know what you have to do to catch it on landing. And you got to think that 1 or 2 of these guys have 1 or 2 laps in this car at this circuit, is how it looks to me. Now we're about to complete the 16th lap here. We've got Kunzer from Rödinger, Romer, Janney, White, Christensen, Scully, Costa, Velgut, and JBZ will round out your top 10. 6 laps to go. And Romer up 6, Janney up 7. Those are your card chargers so far, and Janney may be thinking about making that 8 positions game. What do you think, Chad?
Yeah, you know, there's sort of 2 types of drivers. Those who just are really good hot lappers and run away, and then there's the really smart strategic drivers who actually do better sometimes chasing. I wouldn't necessarily call Janney that because he's got crazy pace, but that seems to be how he's managing today's race, is just sit back, take the draft, manage the tires, as you were saying, and look for opportunities like this where you can go side by side. He knew he didn't have it because he had a little wobble there and gave it up, but he's going to reset here and look to make another move. Got to play a little defense, I think, going into the hairpin.
Yeah, he does, because White's behind him licking his chops. He saw that bobble.
Well, keep in mind, we've got, you know, 8 and 9K drivers right here battling it out. So the margin for error is just razor thin. And they will take advantage if it presents itself.
Absolutely, and Parker White here, of course, driving for Apex Apex Racing Academy, your sponsor here today, and another reminder, if you use VRS, you know the benefit that you get from those hot laps, setups, and coaching opportunities. You can enhance that by adding an Apex Racing Academy add-on subscription. We have group and individual coaching, setups, telemetry, hot laps, everything you need to get the most out of that VRS subscription.
I believe even this week, as people are preparing for Spa, the Apex Racing Academy setups are on sale, if I'm not mistaken, so to give people an opportunity to try it and see how it helps in a long endurance race. I know a number of my friends have given it a try and are raving about it, so...
And isn't Spa one of those places where you're just, if I could just get another couple of tenths, if I could just get another couple of tenths, well, maybe ARA can help you with that. So log into VRS, check out the packages that we have. Apex Racing Academy. Back to Kunzer now. Rüdiger's still sniffing around behind him. That gap has not changed much. It's about 0.3, 0.4 with about 4 laps to go. So this is when Rüdiger is going to start maybe weighing his options to make that move for the lead. I'm willing to guarantee you right now that he's not going to settle into second and let this go. So we're going to see some action up front before this one is over.
3 podium spots are up for grabs and being fought for right now. We've got a 2-man fight for the front, and then we've got probably a 4, 5, 6 car battle for P3 and up, depending upon what happens ahead. Grab the popcorn. It's going to be a good finish.
And folks, after 18 laps with these Cup cars on Hockenheimring, we have 20 cars within 30 seconds. No retirements. I don't think we've had anybody have a serious off or have damage. These guys are super pro. And what a shot from Samuli. Holy cow, look at these. Look at them beat these things over that curving. That is awesome. Absolutely awesome.
Well, I think that's one of the things that really separates this class of drivers from the average one in this car is they're obviously they've got the pace, obviously they know how to handle it, but it's the ability to recover or save it, whether it's self-induced or environmental from the track or another driver. I think we've seen that on full display. A couple little drifts sideways, a couple little spins off the curbs, but nobody's had a catastrophic encounter with a wall. And we haven't seen 2 cars come together and create too much paint. That all the liveries are looking pretty nicely intact at this point, which is really remarkable given, as you said, 30 seconds spreading the entire grid top to bottom.
Yeah, absolutely. And my goodness, look at Romer here. He's leading a 5-car train with Janny White, Christensen, Scully, and Costel is in the mix as well. Everybody is sniffing around to move up here. This is lap 19, so 3 to go. And looking at Romer there, you can see from our graphic, he has moved up 6 positions from his grid position, which is saying a lot. These cars are very evenly matched. It's not an easy passing track, and so Romer is putting on a great drive, and Janny behind him up 7.
Yeah, 3 tenths separating all 3 of those cars. It's going to get tighter here because they all know there's 3 laps to go. So a little bit more right pedal, stay off the left pedal, and let's see what happens.
Here's a look at Costa. Got about 0.8 ahead and similar distance behind. So kind of part of this loose train in the middle of the field. He's dropped a couple of positions. Thomas Cope from the UK. There's Tiago Pereira. Up 1 position from his grid position 15. And Pereira's got Sedgley all over him. You don't see moves here that often. Oh my goodness. And that one is going to end up in the dirt. I'm not sure. I lost my stream there just for a second. Was there a little hip check there, Chad, or did he go off in the sand?
I don't think anything malicious there. That's just the advantage of the inside line. He got position, he got ahead, he held his line. Could he have left a little bit more room? It's hard to say because that is such a generous exit. Everybody puts tires in the dirt anyway there. So, judging by that measure, I think he left enough room. He just, carried too much speed on the outside line and found himself too much in the dirt and the grass.
Yep, so just hard racing there, as we've seen.
Listen, I've made that off many times, and I didn't make it back on track. So again, back to the point about being able to handle the car when it's not on track, that's what we're seeing from these guys. It's just a master class in car control.
Yeah, for sure. And oftentimes you see people impatient to get back on, putting in too much steering input to the right and shoot back across the track to the inside wall. And we've seen many catastrophic crashes that begin by going wide there on the left side. And here we are back to Kunzler. Gap still hasn't changed. We're still looking at about a 0.3, 0.4 gap. I don't know, Rudiger might prove me wrong, but I'm really feeling like he's going to take a stab at something here in this last lap.
It's now or never. I mean, you got the podium locked up, so when you're in P2, this is one of those ones where you don't want to force it too much that you both lose the podium, but you're not a racer if you're not going for the top spot. So I would expect him to push as hard as he can, but he's also 22 laps or 21 laps under his belt. He's going to be smart about it, would be my guess.
Yeah,
because he's got a gap behind and doesn't want to give up. Doesn't want to fall back to P3 or worse.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. And we are on the white flag lap here. There's Kunzler and Rudiger. And we also have Romer, Janney, and White in a nice little pack here. And that is going to lead to some side-by-side. Looks like Janney, did he make the move there?
He's just going to follow that inside move. Yeah. White's going to follow him right through, too. This is the real test because Romer's got the inside line going into mobile. Can you carry the speed and not track out? Now you're on the inside line. Parker White gonna get it done.
Wow, and Janney has now moved up 8 positions from his grid position and has made the podium. That is some epic driving by Janney. And behind him, Parker White. He is not out of this yet, and it looks to me from looking over the timing tower that he has the current fast lap of 126.66. So he is wheeling that Cup car. Meanwhile,
nose to tail coming into the finish line.
Rudiger, what's he going to do? I say nothing. He's got to coast to the finish line here.
Oh,
did he almost lose it there?
I don't know if he was showing off there or if he was going to try an inside move or if he just got a little happy on the throttle. He looks like he's just having fun.
Wow. Well, and Kunzler survives. What a fantastic race. Holy cow. And they're still coming across, folks, but there is your podium. Kunzler, Rudiger, and Janney. Janney up 8 positions, and what a drive by him here at Hockenheim. That is crazy. White, Romer, Christensen, Scully, Costa, Velgut, and JBZ are going to round out your top 10. Behind them, Hammer, Bilica, Pereira, Sedgley, Cope, Dalziel, Sproul, Seifert, Parker, and Coast. And of course, looking at the classes, Hammer is going to be your podium in M. Hammer, Bilica, and Pereira are 1, 2, and 3 in M. And there are your final results. Wow. Welcome to week 1 of Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup Series. And we are going to invite you to join us every week. Is it weekly? I don't even know. I
think so. For the next 6 weeks, yeah. We've got 6 weeks of this kind of action. So
yeah, I think that's right. So we're going to invite you back to join us same time here on YouTube and watch these Cup cars racing. I can't imagine an opportunity to see these high-rated 8-9K drivers battling out in these awesome cars and some classic tracks. So wow. Holy cow.
This is usually the time where we start talking about who gets driver of the day. I wouldn't have a clue. I mean, obviously Michael Janney, I think across the 2 races, the qualifying and this one, moved up the most spots, so he could make a strong case. But, folks who didn't do well in the first heat, who came out of the second heat to get into this one, that's a good driver of the day candidate. And we saw some tight racing top to bottom. So I'm not inclined to award a driver of the day for race one. I'm more excited about, as you just said, the prospect of some really high quality racing this series.
Well, I am willing, Chad, and I'm going to go out on a limb and give it to Janny. I mean, sometimes when you're racing and you move up, it's because of luck. Someone has gone off in front of you. Someone makes a mistake. But we saw Janny dicing and making legit passes throughout this race, and it's a difficult track to pass on. It's a difficult car to handle, with, as we said, lack of electronic driving aids, and Janny was a monster to make it to the podium, and I'll give him driver of the day without reservation.
Certainly was the kind of drive that you want to, again, save the replay. It's a textbook exercise in patience and racecraft and strategy, because in both the heat race and the final, what did he move up, like 6-8 spots both times? I mean, that's, again, you got to take a step back and look at the strength of this field. That's an accomplishment for sure.
Absolutely. Wow. Well, folks, we are going to have a great season here, and again, same time, same channel, to see these Cup cars going at it. We're at noon here on the West Coast, and wherever you are across the world watching Apex Racing TV today, don't forget to join us again next week for more of this Cup car action. I think this is probably some of the best racing that you can see, frankly. And also don't forget to subscribe to Apex Racing TV. We've got events all across the racing spectrum. We have got open wheels, we have got stock cars, we have got it all, and it is a blast. So spend time with us here on YouTube, and you won't regret it.
Yeah, it's been a blast. I'm glad on my end, the weather held up and I had no disruptions in electricity and internet, and I was able to see the race from beginning to end. It was a little sketchy getting in today, but appreciate your patience dealing with me getting into the session, JR. This has been a fun kickoff to this series.
Oh, absolutely, no worries. And I do admit to being a little concerned when I heard about you calling the race from the public library, and I was picturing the librarian asking you to tone it down a little bit, but.
Well, I'll put a plug in for my hometown of Westport, Connecticut. We have a premier public library that actually has a full high-def, high-resolution, high-speed internet production studio. So when I say the library, I don't really mean standing in the stacks and making noise while people try to read. I was going to go to the technical section, but sadly, just like my house for a brief period, they were out of electricity and internet. So I put my head down, walked back home, and by the time I got back home, the technology gods had smiled upon us. So I was really glad I could make it into the session.
Yeah, well, that was fantastic, and I'm checking the interview. I'm seeing somebody's Discord name here as Joshi, and Sam's telling me who that is. Who is this, Sam? Okay, that's for another broadcast here at Apex Racing TV. So, gosh, I was really hoping Michael Janny was going to stop in. I wanted to talk to him about his drive. If you're a friend or a family member of Michael, tell him to join our Discord here at Apex Racing TV so that we can get some feedback from him on performances like today. I'm guessing that this is not going to be the last time that we see a big drive from Janny. And of course, I don't mean to overshadow the performance by Kunzer, who battled Rudinger throughout that one to come in P1. Rudinger hung on for P2. And wow, welcome, folks, to the next season of Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup Series. And on behalf of myself, pardon me, my partner in crime, Chad, and Sam in the production studio, this is JR Gregory, Apex Racing TV. Have a great day.